Meanwhile, let's talk about the Red Sea, Bronwyn, and attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. Well, it could hit global supply lines, exactly what we do not need. The delay of deliveries of staples and things like chemicals to steel cars, food products. Major shipping companies ceased operations in the region because of piracy attacks by Yemen's Houthi rebels. Yes. And of course, meanwhile, Bronwyn, we can't even rustle up a vessel to assist. We just learned last week that Australia is unlikely to send a warship to protect merchant vessels in the Red Sea. I thought we were an island nation. I thought we should have a navy that's got that capacity.
Well, Gary, it's not a question of we can't send it. It's a question that we won't. And this Socialist Prime Minister and this Socialist government are showing their true colours. Immediately after the deal was done that we would get the submarines from the United States, the Virginia class, we had to vote in the United Nations about a ceasefire, which again was to say let Hamas rearm. And we voted against our allies, against the United States and against Great Britain. And then we get a request from the United States, could we please send a ship? Oh, no, we couldn't possibly do that. We're too busy in the Pacific. Busy doing what? We can't even stand up to the Chinese properly. We can't even stand up for our own sailors when they're attacked by the Chinese. And they're saying we can't send a frigate. We have had frigates in the Middle East for decades. I have been on a frigate in the Persian Gulf. I have seen...
Me too.
We have had frigates, the Anzac-class frigates, which, as a gift of the Hawke government, were fitted for but not with. In other words, they didn't have proper armaments on it. We have had years. We could easily put on the required armaments to be a support ship, as requested, into the Red Sea. And this is part of the trade that we depend on. This is a government that doesn't... Yeah. Socialist governments don't look after nations. They look after power for themselves and serving their sectional interests. And this is why we are now seeing them in their true colours. And the sooner we get rid of them, the better this country will be served. We've got a weak Prime Minister who eviscerates. They've worked out that there are only 99,000 Jews in this country and 981,000 Muslims in this country, and they're in Labor Party seats, and they're weak at the knees, shaking that they're going to lose the votes to the Greens. It is a disgraceful government that has to go.
See, Michael Kroger, you've been around a long time. We all have, all three of us, right? We've been around this political world a long time in different forms. And I'm watching this lack of leadership.
What are you trying to say, Gary?
Quite right. I mean,
what are you trying to say there, Gary?
Well, I'm just trying to... We got experience, mate. We have experience, right? We've seen this sort of numptiness before, and we'll call it out any time. But I'm thinking about this raving insanity of Chris Bowen. You know, he wants to kill off coal as a power source, along with Australian farmers and other industries. And I think we're all in the firing line too, because we're carbon units, if you know that line out of the Star Trek movie. But it now means that we are suffering, can you believe this or not, a skills shortage amongst those who are actually capable of maintaining coal-fired power stations. You see, they've all left the sector. And the government in Queensland, for instance, is subsidising people to leave coal-fired power stations to rot. Explosions at one of the biggest, Callide in central Queensland, have already reduced power supply in recent years. So, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Our power supply is going to be in peril.
Look, mate, I don't think in a change portfolio you ever want to put in charge a zealot. And that's exactly what Chris Bowen is. Exactly. He's a zealot with a blank cheque. Yeah. Isn't he? All right, he's a zealot with a blank cheque, and Jimmy Chalmers is there unable to stop him. Albo urging him on from the sidelines. Is it going well? No, it's not going well. If it was going well, mate, we'd have the $275 reduction in our power bills. So if you just concentrate on that issue, if Albanese and Bowen were in charge of this, if it was going to plan, we'd be able to see that decrease in power bills. And let's not forget, one of the core reasons Albanese won that election, yes, the Liberal government had basically been exhausted after 9 years and 3 prime ministers, etc., and they won in 19 against the tide. But his key message of reducing power bills, and that really it was quite easy to keep this cost of living thing under control. There's a massive crisis out there, he kept saying 100 times, but the $275 reduction, it's just easy. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see the modelling. Jim Chalmers ought to release, and Bowen ought to release the modelling that underpinned their statement. I mean, having been involved in the floats of some public companies, you are as a director of a public company, every single word in the prospectus has to be verified as being true under threat of a criminal prosecution if there's a false and misleading statement. Yet here's a bloke that's won an election, you know, in large parts because of his promise to ease the cost of living burden. He made this promise about the 275, what was it, 98, 96 times he repeated it. Release the modelling, Chris Bowen. Where's your modelling? Let's have it independently verified as to how you got to that number, because you seem to have been wildly wrong. And was that inducement to voters fair and reasonably made, mate?
Yeah, no, I think putting all your energy eggs in one basket's a mistake. Chris Bowen is a mistake. Bronwyn Bishop is right, is a leadership failure. The Prime Minister's got to bring these people around, or else get out of the way and let someone in who will. Michael Kroger, Bronwyn Bishop, great to see you both. Happy New Year. We'll catch up again in 2024.
Same to you, mate.
Thanks so much for your time tonight after the break. Yeah, good on you.